The phone screen lit up. It was not a message. It was a low battery notification. 10% remaining. The man on the left stared at the screen as if it had betrayed him. He swiped the notification away with a thumb that moved too quickly, too aggressively. He placed the phone back on the table, face up. He aligned it perfectly parallel with the edge of the wood. Across from him, the other man sat in total stillness. They had been sitting in this booth for 40 minutes. The coffee in the white cups had gone cold 20 minutes ago. A thin film had formed on the surface of the liquid, breaking only when the table vibrated from a passing truck outside. The dynamic was invisible but absolute. The man on the left was the sender. The man on the right was the receiver who refused to acknowledge the transmission. It had been 5 minutes since the question was asked. The question still hung in the air, suspended in the dust motes dancing in the afternoon light. It was a simple question, but the lack of an answer had turned it into a complex accusation. The man on the left shifted his weight. The leather of the booth squeaked, a sharp, rubbery sound that seemed to tear through the quiet. He cringed, freezing mid-motion, waiting to see if the noise would trigger a reaction. It did not. The man on the right continued to look out the window. His gaze was unfocused. He wasn't looking at the pedestrians or the traffic. He was looking at the middle distance, that safe, neutral zone where no eye contact is required. His hands were folded in his lap, relaxed, intertwined loosely. There was no tension in his shoulders. This was the weapon. Indifference. The man on the left checked his phone again. He tapped the screen. Black. He tapped it again. The time displayed in white numbers. 3:14. He looked up at the silent man. He opened his mouth. The breath hitched in his throat, a small, sharp intake of air. He wanted to repeat the question. He wanted to demand an answer. But the silence had grown too thick. To speak now would be to admit defeat. It would be to acknowledge that he was waiting, and that the other man held all the power. So he closed his mouth. He picked up a spoon and turned it over and over in his fingers. The metal was warm from the sun. A waitress walked by. She slowed down, sensing the atmosphere. She looked at the full cups, the untouched sugar packets. She hesitated, thinking about offering a refill, but the wall of tension pushed her away. She kept walking. The man on the right finally moved. It was a slow, deliberate movement. He uncrossed his legs. He placed his right foot flat on the floor. The man on the left straightened up. His eyes widened slightly. This was it. The posture shift signaled a transition. An answer was coming. But the man on the right simply reached into his pocket. He pulled out a pair of sunglasses. He unfolded them, one arm at a time. Click, click. He slid them onto his face. The dark lenses hid his eyes completely. Now, the man on the left couldn't even tell where he was looking. The silence had just gained a fortification. The man on the left looked down at his hands. His knuckles were white. He realized he was gripping the spoon so hard the edges were digging into his skin. He let go. The spoon clattered onto the table. The sound was loud, jarring. The man with the sunglasses didn't flinch. He didn't blink. He didn't turn. He sat comfortably in the shadow of his own refusal to engage. The vibration on the table came again. This time, it was a real notification. The phone on the left lit up. A message. The man on the left looked at it. He read the preview. It was irrelevant. A marketing email. A distraction. He looked back up. The man across from him was already sliding out of the booth. There was no goodbye. There was no nod. The man with the sunglasses stood up, smoothed the front of his jacket, and turned toward the door. He walked away with a steady, even rhythm. He did not look back. He did not check to see if he was being followed. He moved with the confidence of someone who had never felt the need to explain himself. The man on the left remained seated. He watched the door swing shut. He watched the figure disappear into the bright street. He looked at the empty seat opposite him. The indentation in the cushion was slowly rising, erasing the evidence that anyone had been there at all. He looked at the cold coffee. He looked at the phone with 10% battery. He sat alone in the booth, still waiting for an answer that he now knew would never arrive. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It was final.